Namo Amitābha Buddha, dear friends. I greet you with a calm heart wherever you may be listening tonight. Have you ever noticed this? You finally lie down after a long day. The lights are off, the house is quiet, but inside, something refuses to rest. Your body feels heavy, yet your mind stays alert. Not because something terrible is happening, but because it feels like you cannot afford to let go. Maybe you've carried responsibility all day for your family, for your work, for your future, and even now, in the safety of your bed, your chest still feels tight, as if letting go would be dangerous. Many people in this country know this feeling well. After the freeway traffic fades, after the phone is put face down, after the world finally grows silent, this is when the uneasiness appears. Quiet, persistent, and exhausting. Tonight, I want to gently tell you something the Buddha understood deeply. This restlessness is not your weakness, and you are not failing at life. There is a simple, compassionate way to meet this tired heart without forcing it, without fixing it, without running away. Let us begin slowly together. The uneasiness you felt a moment ago does not disappear just because we have named it. It often lingers quietly, like a light left on in the next room. And many nights, it comes without an invitation, without a clear reason you can point to. You may notice it when the house is finally still. The dishwasher hums its last cycle. The street outside grows quiet, only an occasional car passing by. Your phone rests face down on the nightstand, dark and silent. Nothing is demanding your attention anymore, and yet inside your mind remains awake. It is a strange, calm, kind of anxiety. There is no emergency, no argument echoing in your ears, no bad news waiting on the screen, and still your chest feels tight. Your thoughts drift from one worry to another, landing nowhere like a bird unable to find a branch. Many people living here in America know this feeling deeply. It often appears after a full day of doing what needed to be done, after working hard, after taking care of others, after holding yourself together for hours without complaint. Some people describe it as a pressure behind the eyes. Others feel it in their stomach, or as a quiet trembling in the hands. For many, it shows up as a simple thought that keeps repeating, "Something is wrong, but I don't know what." This kind of anxiety can be the most confusing. When there is no clear cause, the mind begins to turn inward. We start to question ourselves. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just relax like other people? Why am I still tense when everything seems fine? If you have ever asked yourself these questions in the dark, please listen closely. You are not broken. You are not weak. And you are not alone in this experience. In the Buddha's teaching, this kind of restlessness has a name. It is not called a disorder. It is not called a failure. It is simply called dukkha, unease, dissatisfaction, the subtle suffering that lives beneath the surface of everyday life. The Buddha taught that suffering does not only appear when life goes wrong, it can also appear when life looks perfectly fine on the outside. This is important to understand because many people believe they have no right to feel anxious. They tell themselves, others have it worse. I should be grateful. And so they push the feeling away layer by layer, night after night. But pushed down suffering does not disappear. It waits. And when the world finally grows quiet, it gently rises. I once spoke with an elderly woman at a small Buddhist temple in California. Her name was Margaret. She had lived here for decades, raised children, worked long hours, and rarely complained. She said to me, during the day I'm fine, but at night, my heart doesn't listen to reason. When I asked her what she worried about, she shook her head slowly. Nothing specific, she said. That's what scares me. As she spoke, her hands rested in her lap, fingers lightly intertwined as if holding something invisible. Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried the weight of many quiet nights. This is the kind of anxiety we are talking about, the kind that does not shout, the kind that whispers. From a Buddhist perspective, this unease is not random. It is not meaningless. It is the echo of many moments when the heart had to stay alert in order to survive. The Buddha taught that the mind learns through repetition. Each time we respond to life with tension, fear, or constant vigilance, the mind remembers. Over time, this response becomes familiar. Eventually, it becomes automatic. This is what we call a habit of mind. So, when the world finally becomes safe enough to rest, the mind does not know how. It has practiced being on guard for too long. This is why anxiety can arise without a clear cause. It is not reacting to the present moment. It is replaying the past quietly in the body. Understanding this changes everything, because it means your anxiety is not a personal flaw. It is the result of a mind that has been trying to protect you. In Buddhist teaching, we do not scold the mind for this. We bow to it with understanding. The Buddha never said, "You should not feel this way." He said, "See clearly what is happening." When we see anxiety clearly without judgment, something softens. The inner struggle begins to loosen its grip. At that same temple, as the evening bell rang, a low, gentle sound that seemed to spread through the air. Margaret closed her eyes. Her shoulders dropped just a little. She later told me, "For the first time, I realized my anxiety wasn't attacking me. It was asking for care." That realization is the beginning of peace. If anxiety arises in you without a reason, tonight, let this understanding sit with you. You do not need to chase it away. You do not need to fix yourself. Simply recognize. This is a tired mind carrying old habits. And when the heart is tired, what it needs is not force, but kindness. As we continue, you will learn how the Buddha taught us to meet this restlessness gently, and how even long-standing anxiety can begin to change when we stop fighting it and start listening with compassion. That tired mind carrying old habits is not just feeling something that came and went. In the Buddha's understanding, what you are experiencing is more than an emotion passing through. It is something deeper, something that has been forming quietly over time. When the Buddha spoke about human suffering, he did not begin with philosophy. He began with observation. He looked at people sitting, standing, walking, lying down. He watched how the body tightened, how the breath shortened, how the mind kept reaching forward even when nothing was needed. He taught that suffering, what we often translate as stress, anxiety, or restlessness, is not only something we feel, it is something that operates. Imagine standing near a lake early in the morning. The surface looks calm, almost still. But beneath that surface, there are currents moving slowly, shaping everything above. Anxiety is often like that. What you notice at night is only the surface ripple. The deeper movement has been there all along. In the Buddha's teaching, this deeper movement is called a pattern of the mind, not a mistake, not a defect, a pattern. You can see this clearly if you watch yourself closely. Perhaps you lie down, close your eyes, and tell yourself, "I should relax now." But instead of relaxing, your thoughts become sharper. Plans replay. Old conversations return. Future worries line up one after another. Nothing new is happening. Yet the mind behaves as if something urgent is about to occur. This is why the Buddha did not describe suffering as just an emotion. He described it as a process that begins with contact. What you see, hear, remember. Then, feeling pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Then, reaction, grasping, resisting, tightening. And finally, habit the mind, learning to repeat that reaction again and again. Over time, the reaction becomes automatic. Many people in America grow up learning to stay alert, to be prepared, to push through discomfort, to keep going even when the body asks for rest. This way of living can look strong on the outside, but inside the mind never fully learns how to stand down. I once met a man named Daniel at a small weekend retreat. He worked in healthcare, long shifts, constant responsibility. He told me, "I don't panic, I function, but my mind never shuts off." As he spoke, his foot tapped lightly against the floor, even while sitting still. He did not notice it at first, but when the room grew quiet, that tapping became louder than any words. That small movement told the whole story. The Buddha would say that this is not simply anxiety appearing at night. This is a mind trained to stay activated. In the teachings, this is called conditioning. What we repeatedly do, we become skilled at. If we repeatedly respond to life with tension, the mind becomes skilled at tension. So when there is nothing left to manage, the mind continues doing what it knows best. This understanding is important because it removes blame. It also removes confusion. You are not anxious because you are ungrateful. You are not restless because you lack faith. You are experiencing the natural result of patterns that were learned for survival. The Buddha called this the truth of suffering, not to make us feel hopeless, but to help us see clearly. He taught that suffering is not a punishment. It is a message that something in the mind is being held too tightly. At many Buddhist temples across the United States, you may hear the bell rung slowly in the evening. The sound spreads through the air, deep and steady, then fades. People are taught to pause and breathe with that sound. Not because the bell is magical, but because it interrupts the pattern. For a brief moment, the mind stops running and listens. This is what the Buddha offered, not a promise that difficult feelings would never arise, but a way to understand what they truly are. Anxiety in this light is not your enemy. It is a signal that the mind has been living in a state of quiet pressure. When we misunderstand anxiety, we fight it. We distract ourselves. We criticize ourselves for not being calm enough. But when we understand it as a process, something changes. The heart softens. The breath deepens just a little. And the mind begins to feel seen instead of judged. The Buddha taught that clarity is already a form of relief. When we stop arguing with what is happening, suffering loses some of its power. Daniel told me later that night, after sitting quietly and listening to the bell, for the first time, I wasn't trying to fix myself. I was just watching. As he said this, his foot had stopped tapping. His shoulders rested more heavily against the chair. Nothing dramatic had changed, but something essential had shifted. This is the beginning of the path the Buddha pointed to see anxiety not as a personal failure, but as a conditioned response. To understand that it is not only a feeling, but a habit shaped by time, effort, and care for survival. And most importantly, to realize this, anything that has been conditioned can also be gently reconditioned. The Buddha did not ask us to force calm into the mind. He asked us to understand the mind deeply. When understanding appears, even briefly, peace begins to grow naturally, like a lotus rising from water that was once muddy. As you rest here tonight, let this perspective settle quietly within you. There is nothing wrong with you. There is something in you asking to be understood. And that understanding is where true relief begins. Anything that has been conditioned can also be gently reconditioned. This understanding opens a quiet door, and behind it is a truth that many people have never been taught. Anxiety is not who you are. It is something you have practiced for a very long time. Habits do not begin loudly. They form in small moments repeated again and again, often without our noticing. Think of the way your body moves when you drive a familiar road. Your hands turn the wheel without effort. Your foot presses the brake at the right moment. You do not think through each action. The body remembers. The mind learns in the same way. At first, the habit of anxiety may have been useful. It may have helped you stay alert. It may have helped you survive difficult years. It may have kept you responsible, careful, prepared. Many people in this country learned early to stay one step ahead, to anticipate problems before they arrived, to carry more than their share without complaint. Over time, that alertness settled into the muscles. The jaw tightened without being asked. The shoulders lifted even while resting. The breath became shallow, as if danger were always nearby. You may notice this even now. As you listen, see if your body is truly at ease. Is the tongue resting softly in the mouth? Are the shoulders heavy, or are they still holding something up? These small details tell the story. The Buddha taught that whatever we repeat becomes familiar. Whatever becomes familiar begins to feel normal. And whatever feels normal eventually feels like me. This is how anxiety becomes a habit. Not because you chose it, but because you practiced it patiently, day after day. There is a teaching in Buddhism about the path a drop of water takes as it falls onto the ground. At first, the soil is flat, but with each drop landing in the same place, a small groove forms. Eventually, the water flows there without effort. The mind works in the same way. Each time worry arises and we follow it, the groove deepens. Each time tension appears and we hold it, the path becomes smoother. Soon anxiety does not need a reason. It simply follows the path it knows. I once met a woman named Laura who volunteered at a temple food pantry. She moved quickly, efficiently, rarely stopping. Even when there was nothing urgent to do, her hands kept busy straightening boxes that were already neat. One evening, as the sun lowered and the room filled with soft orange light, she paused. Her shoulders dropped for just a second. She looked surprised, as if she had forgotten that rest was possible. "I don't know how to stop," she said quietly. "I've been doing this my whole life." Her words were not filled with despair. They were filled with honesty. This is the moment the Buddha spoke to. The moment when we realize, not with blame, but with clarity, that what feels permanent is actually learned. In Buddhist teaching, this learned pattern is sometimes called karma of the mind. Not karma as fate or punishment, but karma as momentum. What we think we strengthen. What we repeat, we carry forward. Anxiety continues not because it wants to hurt you, but because it has been trained to protect you. When the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he did not fight his thoughts. He watched them rise and fall. He noticed how the mind clung to what felt safe, even when it caused suffering. This gentle observation is the beginning of freedom. When you see anxiety as a habit, something softens inside. The harsh question, "What's wrong with me?" begins to fade. In its place, a kinder understanding appears. Of course, this feels strong. I have practiced it for years. This realization is not discouraging. It is deeply hopeful. Because anything that has been practiced can be practiced less. Anything that has been learned can be learned differently. At many Buddhist centers across the United States, elders often say, "Practice slowly," not because the path is weak, but because the mind needs patience to change. You cannot rush a habit out of existence, but you can stop feeding it. You do this not by force, but by awareness. The moment you notice tension without judging it, the habit weakens. The moment you feel worry and do not follow its story, the groove softens. This is not something you do once. It is something you return to gently, like coming home, late at night, when the house is quiet and the mind begins to pace. You might hear a familiar voice inside saying, "Be careful. Stay alert." Instead of pushing that voice away, try listening with compassion. It has worked very hard for you. Then, without arguing, you allow the breath to deepen, the body to settle, the moment to be just as it is. In that simple pause, a new habit begins to form. Not the habit of anxiety, but the habit of kindness. The Buddha taught that liberation does not arrive all at once. It arrives in moments, small, ordinary moments, when we choose awareness over reaction. As Laura continued volunteering, she began to sit for a few minutes each evening before leaving. No phone, no task, just sitting. At first, her body resisted. Her hands twitched, looking for something to fix. But over time, those movements grew quieter. One evening, she smiled without realizing it. Her face softened, her breathing slowed. "I think my body is learning something new," she said. That learning is available to you as well. Anxiety may feel old, familiar, deeply rooted, but it is not permanent. It is a habit, and habits can change. As you rest here tonight, you do not need to undo years of conditioning. You only need to notice what is happening now with a gentle heart. This moment of awareness is already a step in a new direction. And each step, no matter how small, carries you closer to peace. And in that gentle awareness, a question naturally arises in the heart. If anxiety is a habit learned over time, then what did the Buddha actually offer us? The answer may surprise you because the Buddha never promised a life without worry. He never said that fear would disappear forever or that difficult feelings would never return. Instead, he offered something quieter, something far more reliable. He taught the way to change our relationship with suffering. Many people come to spiritual practice hoping for relief. They want the pain to stop. They want the mind to finally be quiet. They want assurance that everything will be okay. This wish is very human. You can feel it in the chest like a hand reaching forward in the dark. But the Buddha saw something important. As long as we demand that anxiety disappear before we can feel at peace, the mind remains trapped. It waits, it negotiates, it resists, and resistance, even when it looks reasonable, keeps the habit alive. The Buddha did not teach us how to eliminate anxiety. He taught us how to transform it. There is a quiet story often shared in temples across America. A woman once approached a monk and said, "I have been practicing for years. Why am I still anxious?" The monk did not answer immediately. He poured tea into her cup and kept pouring. The tea spilled over the edge onto the table, onto the floor. "Stop," she said. "The cup is already full." The monk looked at her gently. "Yes," he said, "and so is the mind." The Buddha understood that a full mind cannot be forced into calm. It must be allowed to empty drop by drop. This is why Buddhist practice does not begin with controlling emotions. It begins with understanding. In the teachings, this understanding is called wisdom, not book knowledge, but lived seeing. Wisdom sees that anxiety is not an enemy to defeat. It is energy that needs direction. Imagine a river after heavy rain. The water rushes, overflows, moves with great force. Trying to stop it with your hands would only exhaust you. But guiding the water into a wider channel allows it to slow naturally. The Buddha's path is that wider channel. He taught that when anxiety arises, three things matter most where we place our attention: how we hold the experience and what we feed the mind next. This is what changing really means. Not pushing away the feeling, not drowning in it, but learning how to meet it without strengthening its grip. I remember a quiet evening at a Vietnamese American temple in Northern California. The lights were low. Incense drifted slowly through the hall. An elderly man named Thomas sat near the back, his hands resting on his knees. He had lost his wife the year before. Grief and anxiety had become close companions. When the chanting ended, he did not look relieved. But something in his face had softened. The tight line around his mouth eased. His breathing slowed. Later he said, "The fear didn't go away, but it stopped pushing me." That is the transformation the Buddha pointed to. In Buddhist teaching, suffering continues not because feelings arise, but because we cling to them. We argue with them. We demand that they leave. This clinging is what the Buddha called craving. Not only craving for pleasure, but craving for control. We crave certainty. We crave safety that never wavers. We crave a guarantee, but life does not offer guarantees. And the Buddha never pretended otherwise. Instead, he taught freedom within uncertainty. This freedom appears when we stop measuring our peace by the absence of anxiety. Peace appears when anxiety no longer decides how we respond. You may still feel the tightness in the chest, the familiar flutter of worry, but instead of being pulled into its story, you remain present. You breathe, you notice, you allow. This is not passive, it is deeply active. Each time anxiety arises and you do not feed it with fear, you weaken the habit. Each time you stay with the breath instead of the story, you create space. This is how karma changes, not through force, but through different choices. The Buddha taught that every moment is a moment of planting seeds. What we water grows. When we water panic with more panic, it grows stronger. When we water awareness with patience, peace begins to take root. This is why Buddhist practice emphasizes small, consistent actions. A pause before reacting. A breath before speaking. A moment of kindness toward oneself. These are not dramatic acts, but they are powerful. Over time, they reshape the mind. Many people misunderstand this and think spiritual practice should feel immediately calming. But the Buddha knew better. At first, awareness can feel uncomfortable, like sitting with an old ache without distraction. But slowly, the body learns something new. The mind learns it does not need to run. Thomas continued coming to the temple. Some days, he felt calm. Other days, the grief returned sharply. But he no longer judged himself for it. One evening, as he bowed before leaving, his movement was slower, more deliberate. His face carried a quiet steadiness. "I don't need the fear to disappear," he said. "I just need to know what to do when it comes." That is the heart of the Buddha's teaching, not the promise of a life without anxiety, but the confidence that suffering can be met with wisdom. As you rest here tonight, let this truth settle gently. Nothing needs to be forced away. Nothing needs to be solved right now. The path is not about becoming a different person. It is about learning a different way to be with what already exists. And that learning, practiced patiently, is what turns anxiety from a burden into a doorway toward peace. And when anxiety no longer needs to be defeated, another truth slowly comes into view. There is a deep tiredness beneath all that effort, a tiredness that has nothing to do with sleep. Many people living here have learned to be strong for a very long time, strong for their families, strong at work, strong in a world that rarely slows down. You can see it in small ways. The way someone smiles while their shoulders remain tight. The way they say "I'm fine" while rubbing their temples. The way they lie awake at night, exhausted yet unable to rest. Strength has become a habit too. In this culture, strength often means holding everything together. It means not breaking down. It means continuing even when the body is asking for mercy. But the Buddha offered a different understanding of strength. He did not praise the kind of strength that hardens the heart. He spoke of a strength that knows when to soften. There is a moment many people recognize, usually late at night, when the day finally lets go. The dishes are done. The lights are dim. The house settles into stillness. And suddenly, the weight arrives. It is not dramatic. It feels like a heaviness behind the eyes, a slow exhale that never fully finishes, a sense that you have been carrying something for so long you no longer remember how it feels to put it down. At a small temple outside Seattle, an older woman named Helen once whispered, "I don't know who I am without being strong." She sat very straight as she spoke, hands folded neatly back, still alert. Even in rest, her body was on duty. When the bell rang deep and steady, something changed. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Her breath widened. Her face softened as if a quiet permission had been granted. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes from clinging. Not only clinging to pleasure or certainty, but clinging to identities we believe we must maintain. I am the one who handles things. I am the one who doesn't fall apart. I am the one others depend on. These identities can look noble, but when held too tightly, they become heavy. In Buddhist teaching, there is a gentle reminder: even the strongest tree bends in the wind. It does not stand rigid against every storm. Strength that cannot bend eventually breaks. The Buddha did not ask people to stop caring or to abandon responsibility. He asked them to stop confusing tension with virtue. When we believe that being strong means never resting, we deny ourselves refuge. We turn the heart into a battlefield instead of a home. This is why the path includes the idea of taking refuge, not as escape, but as rest. Taking refuge means allowing yourself to lean, to rely on something larger than your personal effort. For some, this refuge is the quiet presence of the Buddha. For others, it is the steady rhythm of chanting. For many, it is simply the feeling of sitting somewhere safe without needing to perform. In temples across the United States, you will often see people arrive carrying invisible burdens. Their steps are quick, their minds busy. But after sitting quietly, after listening to a single verse or a simple chant, something loosens. They do not look victorious. They look relieved. This relief does not come from fixing anything. It comes from allowing themselves to stop trying so hard. Helen later shared that for years she believed letting go meant giving up. But as she sat more often, she began to feel something else. It feels like being held, she said. Like I don't have to stand guard all the time. The Buddha understood that human beings need refuge, especially when they are tired. Not a refuge that denies reality, but one that offers safety within it. In Buddhist language, this is compassion, beginning with compassion toward oneself. Compassion does not say, "You should be stronger." It says you have carried enough. When anxiety and exhaustion meet, the mind often says, "Just a little longer, just push through." But the body tells a different story. It shows itself in shallow breaths, in clenched fists, in a heart that races even when lying down. The Buddha taught that listening to the body is a form of wisdom. The body does not lie. It speaks quietly but truthfully. When you notice how tired you truly are, something honest happens. The performance begins to fall away. And in that moment, strength takes on a new meaning. Strength becomes the willingness to rest, to stop proving, to allow support. This is not weakness. It is maturity of the heart. In many Buddhist communities, elders often remind younger practitioners, "You don't carry the Dharma carries you." This teaching is especially important for those who feel they must always hold everything together. Tonight, if you feel weary in a way that sleep alone cannot fix, let this message reach you gently. You do not need to be strong right now. You do not need to have answers. You do not need to protect anyone in this moment. You are allowed to soften. You are allowed to rest your heart, even if only for a few breaths. The Buddha's path is not a demand for perfection. It is an invitation to stop struggling against your own humanity. When you stop bracing yourself even briefly, something remarkable happens. The breath deepens. The mind slows. The body remembers how to settle. This is the kind of strength that heals. As you remain here listening quietly, see if you can allow the effort to ease just a little more. Let the shoulders sink. Let the jaw loosen. Let the heart rest where it is. You have done enough for today. And in this simple act of allowing yourself to stop being strong, the doorway to peace begins to open. When the heart finally softens, when the body is no longer bracing itself, there is often a quiet question that appears. Where do I rest now? Not a place outside, not a solution to solve, but a place inside where the mind can stand without falling. This is where a single phrase, repeated gently, becomes precious. Many people misunderstand the practice of reciting a Buddha's name. They imagine it as a request, asking for protection, asking for something to be taken away. But in the Buddha's teaching, a Buddha's name is not a wish sent outward. It is a place to return to. Think of how a tired child looks for a familiar voice in a crowded room. When that voice is heard, the body relaxes before the mind understands why. A Buddha's name works in the same way. At night, when thoughts scatter and worries circle, the mind is searching for something steady. Without guidance, it returns to old habits, planning, fearing, replaying. A single phrase gives the mind somewhere else to land. In many Buddhist homes across the United States, you will see a small altar in a corner of the living room. A simple image, a candle flickering softly. Sometimes a cup of water changed each morning. Nothing elaborate, nothing demanding. Yet when someone stands before it after a long day, something shifts. The shoulders drop. The breath slows. The eyes soften. It is not because the problems have disappeared. It is because the heart has found a reference point, One evening at a community center, a young man named Michael stayed behind after a short chanting session. He was new to the practice and looked unsure, as if he wasn't doing it right. "I don't know if I believe," he said quietly, "but when I repeat the words, my mind stops running for a moment." That moment is the practice. In Buddhist understanding, the mind needs an object of attention that is wholesome and steady. When the mind has no anchor, it drifts toward fear. When it has a gentle anchor, it settles. This is the function of a Buddha's name. Whether it is Namo Amitābha Buddha, or Namo Avalokiteshvara, or simply Buddha spoken with sincerity, the purpose is the same: to gather the scattered mind and bring it home. In the teachings, this is not blind faith. It is a training of attention. Each time the mind wanders and you return to the phrase, you are weakening the habit of anxiety. Each return is an act of kindness. The Buddha taught that whatever the mind rests upon, it becomes shaped by. If the mind rests on fear, fear grows. If the mind rests on compassion, compassion grows. A Buddha's name carries the qualities of awakening calm clarity, boundless care. When you touch that name, even softly, those qualities begin to touch you. This is why elders often say, "Don't recite with the mouth only. Let the heart listen." Recitation is not about volume or speed. It is about sincerity. Imagine sitting quietly in a dim room. The only light comes from a small lamp on the table. Your breath moves in and out, slow and uneven. You begin to repeat the phrase silently, not forcing it, not rushing. At first, the words feel mechanical. The mind wanders away. Then, little by little, the rhythm settles. The phrase moves with the breath. The chest softens. The space behind the eyes eases. This is not imagination. It is the nervous system responding to steadiness. From a Buddhist perspective, this steadiness is called concentration, not rigid focus, but gentle continuity. When concentration is gentle, wisdom can arise naturally. Wisdom here does not mean understanding something new. It means the absence of confusion. Michael returned the following week. His posture had changed slightly. He sat with less effort. "I still get anxious," he said, "but now, when it starts, I know where to go." That knowing is everything. A Buddha's name does not erase life's difficulties. It gives the heart a place to stand while difficulties move through. In many Asian Buddhist traditions, people are taught to recite for themselves and then for others. Parents recite quietly for their children. Children recite for aging parents. This is not superstition. It is an expression of care. When you recite with the wish that others be at ease, your own heart opens. And an open heart is less afraid. In America, many people carry their worries alone. They do not want to burden others. They keep their fears private. Recitation offers companionship without words. It is like sitting beside someone who does not ask questions, does not demand explanations, but simply stays. From a deeper Buddhist view, the Buddha's name represents awakened awareness itself. When you recite, you are not calling something distant. You are touching the part of your own mind that knows how to be present. This is why the practice works even when belief feels uncertain. You do not need perfect faith. You only need willingness. Willingness to return. Willingness to pause. Willingness to stop running just for this breath. If you feel hesitant, that is okay. Many people begin this practice with doubt, but doubt softens when the body feels relief. You may notice that after a few minutes, your jaw unclenches. Your hands rest more easily. The urge to fix everything fades. These are signs that the mind has found its footing. A Buddha's name becomes like a handrail on a staircase. You still walk your steps, but you are less likely to fall. Tonight, if the mind feels restless, you might try this quietly. Choose one phrase that feels natural to you. Say it softly in your heart, in rhythm with your breath. Do not force calm. Do not judge distraction. Each return is enough. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering where peace already lives. As the phrase repeats, let it carry you gently, like a lullaby known since childhood. Let it be simple. Let it be kind. You are not asking for the world to change. You are giving your heart a place to rest. And that, according to the Buddha, is how transformation truly begins. As the gentle rhythm of a Buddha's name settles the mind, the body is ready to hear something it has been waiting for all day. Not words, a signal. The body does not understand logic the way the mind does. It understands sensation, pace, and tone. It understands whether it is being rushed or welcomed. For many people, even when the mind says, "It's okay now," the body still holds its breath. The shoulders remain lifted. The belly stays tight. The jaw clenches slightly, as if bracing for something that never arrives. This is not stubbornness. It is habit. The body learned long ago to stay alert, and like a loyal guard, it does not stand down until it receives a clear message. The Buddha understood this deeply. That is why the path is not only about insight, but also about embodiment. Wisdom must reach the body. not just the thoughts. Tonight, we offer the body a simple message, not through explanation, through experience. 3 breaths, not special breaths, not perfect breaths, just breaths that arrive with care. Before beginning, notice how you are resting. The weight of your body against the bed or chair, the place where your back meets support, the temperature of the air on your skin. Nothing needs to change yet. Imagine the sound of a temple bell in the distance. Low, slow. It does not demand attention. It invites it. With that feeling, allow the first breath to come in through the nose. Not deep, just natural. As the air enters, feel the coolness at the tip of the nostrils. Then, as you exhale, feel the warmth as it leaves. Let the exhale be slightly longer than the inhale, as if you are gently sighing. On this first breath, the body may not respond right away. That is okay. Some muscles will still hold. Some areas will resist. Simply notice. In Buddhist teaching, this noticing is already practice. It is the body being seen. Now, allow the second breath. As the inhale arrives, imagine the breath filling the chest like water rising in a calm bowl. No force, no rush. On the exhale, feel the chest soften. The ribs move inward. The shoulders drop a fraction of an inch. This breath carries a quiet message. Nothing is required of you right now. If thoughts appear, let them drift past like cars on a distant road. You do not need to follow them. The body is listening. In many Buddhist communities, elders often say, the breath is the bridge. It connects the thinking mind to the living body. As you breathe this second breath, notice any small change. Perhaps the tongue rests more easily in the mouth. Perhaps the forehead smooths slightly. These are signs the body is beginning to trust the moment. Now comes the third breath. Before it arrives, pause for just a heartbeat. This pause is important. It tells the body that there is no emergency. Then gently inhale. As the breath moves in, imagine it traveling down into the belly. The belly rises softly like a slow wave reaching the shore. On the exhale, imagine the weight of the day draining downward, out of the chest, out of the shoulders, down through the legs. Let the exhale empty completely without pushing. This third breath carries the clearest message of all. You are safe enough to rest. The Buddha taught that the body holds memory, not in words, but in tension and release. Each time you breathe this way, you are teaching the body something new. You are giving it a different ending to the same old story. A story that once ended with vigilance can now end with ease. At a small temple in Southern California, a nurse named Rebecca once shared that no matter how calm her mind felt, her body stayed tense. Years of night shifts had trained her muscles to remain ready. When she first tried breathing like this, she felt impatient. It seemed too simple. But after a few weeks, something changed. She noticed that when she lay down at night, her breath naturally slowed. Her shoulders no longer crept upward. Her hands rested open instead of clenched. She said, "It's like my body finally believes me." This is the quiet power of practice. From a Buddhist perspective, the breath is not just air. It is a form of mindfulness made visible. Mindfulness is often misunderstood as thinking about the present moment. But the Buddha taught it as direct contact, feeling what is here without resistance. When the breath is gentle, the nervous system responds. The heart rate slows. The signals of danger fade. This is not magic. It is the natural intelligence of the body. You do not need to control it. You only need to allow it. As you rest after these 3 breaths, notice the space that has opened. It may be small. It may be subtle. Perhaps there is a little more room in the chest, a little less pressure behind the eyes. This is enough. The Buddha did not measure progress by dramatic experiences. He measured it by the reduction of struggle. If the body struggles less, even slightly, the path is unfolding. You may repeat these 3 breaths whenever you need. In bed, in a waiting room, in the quiet moments between responsibilities. They do not draw attention. They do not require privacy. They simply remind the body of what the mind already knows. That this moment right now does not require defense. As you continue resting here, let the breath return to its natural rhythm. Do not hold on to the exercise. Let it dissolve into ordinary breathing. The body has received the message. It knows for now that it can stand down. And in that knowing, the door to deeper rest begins to open quietly, gently, just as the Buddha intended. As the body settles and the breath finds its natural rhythm, something else becomes clear. Even when the body feels safer, the mind may still wander. Thoughts arise quietly one after another, like footsteps in a hallway at night. A memory, a worry about tomorrow, a question with no immediate answer. This is where many people believe they have failed. They think I was calm for a moment, and now the anxiety is back. But the Buddha taught something very different. He taught that peace does not come from chasing thoughts away. It comes from learning not to follow them. Anxiety is persuasive. It speaks with urgency. It pulls the mind forward, promising safety if you just think a little more, plan a little better, prepare a little longer. And before you realize it, the mind is no longer resting. It is running again. The Buddha compared the mind to a monkey jumping from branch to branch. If you chase the monkey, it jumps faster. If you shout at it, it becomes more agitated. But if you sit quietly and watch the monkey, eventually grows tired. This is the heart of the practice, not pushing anxiety away, not arguing with it, but not walking alongside it either. There is a simple image many teachers use. Imagine sitting on the side of a road at dusk. Cars pass by, headlights glowing briefly, then fading into the distance. You do not chase the cars. You do not stop them. You simply notice them passing. Thoughts are like that. They arrive, they move, they leave. Anxiety only tightens when we climb into the car and let it drive. In Buddhist teaching, this moment, when you notice a thought without following it, is called mindfulness. Not a rigid attention, but a gentle knowing. You might notice a worry appear. What if something goes wrong? What if I don't sleep? What if I can't handle tomorrow? Instead of answering these questions, you simply recognize them. A worry is here. You do not need to finish the sentence. You do not need to explain it. Just that recognition is enough to loosen the grip. I once met a young mother named Sarah at a temple gathering. Her life was full work, children aging parents. At night, her thoughts raced faster than her body could rest. She told me, I try to calm my mind, but it keeps coming back. When I asked what she did when the thoughts appeared, she said, I fight them. Her jaw tightened as she spoke, as if replaying the struggle. Over time, she learned a different way. One evening, as she lay in bed, a familiar worry surfaced. Her body tensed, ready for the usual battle. But instead of engaging, she did something new. She noticed the worry, silently named it, and returned her attention to the feeling of the blanket on her legs. The thought did not disappear immediately, but it lost its urgency. She said, it was like watching a wave instead of being pulled under. This is exactly what the Buddha taught. Anxiety is not dangerous because it appears. It becomes powerful when we believe every thought it offers. The Buddha encouraged people to see thoughts as mental events, not commands. They arise due to conditions. They fade when conditions change. You do not have to decide whether a thought is true. You only need to decide whether to follow it. This is an important distinction. In daily life especially, here, Many people are trained to solve problems quickly, to respond immediately, to stay ahead. That skill is useful during the day, but at night it becomes a burden. When you are lying down, there is nowhere to go, nothing to fix. The mind keeps offering tasks that do not belong to this moment. The Buddha taught that wisdom means responding appropriately to the moment at hand. And in this moment, the appropriate response is rest. When a thought appears, you can gently remind yourself, this does not need my attention right now. Not with irritation, not with force, with kindness. You may notice the mind trying to pull you into stories, replaying conversations, imagining outcomes. Each time this happens, simply come back to something steady. The breath, the weight of the body, the quiet repetition of a Buddha's name. This is not avoidance. It is choosing where to place your energy. In Buddhist teaching, this is how habits change, not by suppression, but by redirection. When you stop feeding anxiety with attention, it begins to weaken. There is a gentle joy that comes with this practice, a sense of space. You might notice that when you do not follow a thought, another one does not immediately replace it. There is a brief gap. In that gap, the body rests more deeply. The heart feels less crowded. This gap is precious. It is not empty. It is alive with ease. The Buddha taught that liberation is found in these small moments of non-grasping, not in dramatic breakthroughs, but in ordinary decisions not to cling. Sarah shared that after practicing this for some time, she began to smile when worries appeared. Not because she enjoyed them, but because she recognized them. They're just thoughts, she said. They don't own me anymore. Her face looked softer when she spoke, her eyes less strained. This does not mean anxiety never returns. It means it no longer decides the direction of the night. If, as you rest now, a thought arises, let it come. Do not tense against it. Notice its shape, its tone. Then gently return to the body. Feel the breath moving. Feel the support beneath you. This simple act again and again is the practice. The Buddha did not ask us to control the mind. He asked us to understand it. When understanding is present, the mind naturally settles. You may drift in and out of attention. That is fine. Each time you notice you have followed a thought, simply come back. No judgment, no disappointment. This is not a test. It is a training in freedom. As the night deepens, allow thoughts to pass like clouds across the sky. The sky does not chase the clouds. It does not hold them. It remains open. Let your mind be like that. Open, spacious, untroubled by movement. And as you rest in this gentle awareness, know that you are learning something very old and very kind, how to be at peace without needing the world to be different. As the mind rests more easily, something tender often rises in the heart. It is not a thought that asks for attention. It is a feeling quiet, warm, and deeply human. In the stillness, faces may appear. A parent's tired smile. A child sleeping in the next room. Someone far away, living under the same night sky. Even when we are trying to rest our hearts, remember others. This is where the practice of dedication, what Buddhists call offering or sharing the goodness, naturally begins. In Buddhist understanding, when the mind becomes a little calmer, a little kinder, that goodness does not need to stay contained. It can be shared, not by effort, not by force, but by intention. This sharing is called dedication of merit, and it has a gentle power. Many people think of spiritual practice as something private, something done for personal peace. But the Buddha taught that the heart is not separate. What touches one life touches many. When we soften inside, the people we love are held more gently in our thoughts. Our tone changes. Our reactions slow. Even our silence becomes warmer. This is how inner peace quietly becomes family peace. In many Buddhist households across America, there is a moment at the end of prayer or chanting when everyone grows quiet. The words stop. The room feels still. And then softly, someone offers the goodness outward for my parents, for my children, for those who are suffering. The voice may tremble slightly. The hands rest together, palms warm. In that moment, the practice becomes larger than the individual. I once sat beside a man named David at a temple in the Midwest. He had come alone. His parents lived far away, growing older, their health uncertain. During the dedication, his eyes closed. His breathing deepened. A small line of tension between his brows slowly faded. Later he said, "When I think of them with kindness instead of worry, my chest doesn't hurt as much." This is not imagination. This is the heart responding to connection. The Buddha taught that worry often comes from love mixed with fear. We care deeply, but we feel powerless. Dedication offers a different way to care. It turns worry into intention, fear into goodwill. From a deeper Buddhist perspective, this is how karma shifts. Not by controlling outcomes, but by cultivating wholesome states of mind. When you hold someone in kindness, you are shaping your own heart. That shape influences your words, your actions, your presence. And presence matters more than we realize. You may not be able to fix your family's struggles. You may not be able to remove their pain, but you can meet them with a steadier heart. and that steadiness is felt. At night as you rest here, you might bring to mind the people who live in your heart. You do not need to picture them clearly. Just a sense of them is enough. As you breathe gently, imagine the calm you feel spreading outward, like warmth from a small lamp in a dark room. You might silently offer these words or something like them. May this peace touch my parents wherever they are. May my children be safe and at ease. May those I love rest from their worries tonight. Say it slowly, without urgency. If emotions arise, let them come. Tears are welcome here. In Buddhist teaching, dedication is not about transferring something you might lose. It is about recognizing that kindness grows when it is shared. Like a candle lighting another candle, the flame does not diminish. It brightens the room. This is why many elders say that dedicating merit actually lightens the heart. It turns practice into generosity. And generosity, the Buddha taught, is one of the quickest paths to joy. For many people living far from their extended families, especially immigrants and children of immigrants, this practice carries deep meaning. It becomes a way to stay connected across distance, a way to honor parents, a way to hold ancestors in memory, a way to say, I have not forgotten. In some temples, you may hear the bell ring 3 times at the end of dedication. Each sound lingers, then fades. As the sound dissolves, something inside settles. The mind no longer circles itself. It opens. From a practical point of view, this opening has a calming effect. When the heart feels connected, anxiety loosens its grip. You are no longer carrying everything alone. The Buddha taught that suffering narrows the mind, while compassion widens it. When the mind widens, there is more room to breathe. If you notice your body after offering dedication, you may feel a subtle change. The chest feels less tight. The breath moves more freely. The face softens without effort. These are signs that the practice is working not as magic, but as alignment. David told me that after dedicating regularly, he slept better. Not because his parents' situation had changed, but because his relationship to it had. I can love them without panicking, he said. That is a profound shift. Tonight, as you rest, let dedication be simple. You do not need perfect words. Your sincerity is enough. You can even offer the goodness of this quiet moment to yourself. May I be at ease. May my heart rest. The Buddha never asked us to choose between ourselves and others. He taught us that caring for one naturally includes caring for the other. As you allow this sense of warmth to settle, notice how the mind feels less busy. less alone. This is the gentle gift of dedication. It takes the practice out of isolation and places it into relationship. And when the heart feels connected, even rest becomes deeper. Stay here for a few breaths. Let the feeling spread naturally. You do not need to hold on to it. Like all things, it will move in its own time. But something important has already happened. The heart has remembered that peace is not only for you, it is something you can share. And in sharing it, you are held by it as well. As the warmth of kindness spreads and the heart feels less alone, there is a natural settling. The night seems to widen, sounds grow softer, even the air feels more forgiving. This is the moment many people have been waiting for without realizing it. The moment when nothing needs to be fixed. All day long, the mind has been trained to solve, to respond, to plan ahead, emails answered, decisions made, worries rehearsed just in case. But now, the night has arrived, and with it comes a different invitation. Tonight, you do not need to resolve anything. You may notice a familiar impulse to review the day, to replay conversations, to imagine tomorrow's challenges. The mind does this automatically, like a habit learned long ago. It believes that staying busy keeps you safe. But listen carefully. The quiet of this moment is telling a different story. Outside, the streetlights stand still. Inside, the rooms of your home have gone dark. The world has paused its demands. If you were to look at your face right now, you might notice something subtle. The muscles around the eyes soften. The corners of the mouth rest more easily. The breath moves without being guided. These are signs that the body is ready to let go. The Buddha taught that suffering increases when we demand answers at the wrong time. There is a time to act and a time to rest. Nighttime is not for solving life, it is for returning to it. In many Buddhist traditions, there is a saying, "Let tomorrow carry tomorrow's burdens." This is not avoidance, it is wisdom. When the mind tries to solve everything at night, it steals rest from the body, and a tired body cannot carry insight. The Buddha understood this deeply. He often spoke about right effort, not too much, not too little. Effort at the wrong moment becomes strain. Strain feeds anxiety. So tonight, effort can gently step aside. You might notice a thought appearing, but what if I forget something? But what if this problem doesn't go away? Instead of answering, simply acknowledge the concern. Then imagine placing it on a shelf, not throwing it away, not denying it, just setting it down. You can come back to it when the sun rises. There is a quiet relief in realizing that nothing bad happens when you stop thinking for a while. The world does not fall apart. The people you love remain. At a monastery in the southwest, there is a small sign near the sleeping quarters. It reads, "Now is not the time." Many visitors smile when they see it, but those words carry deep meaning. Now is not the time to fix your life. Now is not the time to judge your progress. Now is not the time to measure your worth. Now is the time to rest. In Buddhist teaching, rest is not laziness. It is nourishment. Just as the body needs sleep, to heal the mind needs stillness to restore balance. If you have practiced tonight, breathing, noticing thoughts, offering kindness, then something important has already been done. The seeds have been planted. Seeds do not need to be pulled on to grow. They need darkness. They need quiet. So allow yourself to enter that quiet without expectations. You might feel your body becoming heavier against the bed. The weight spreads evenly. The edges of your awareness blur. This is not losing control. It is returning it. Some people worry that if they let go completely, they will miss something important. But the Buddha reassured his students that nothing essential is lost in rest. In fact, clarity is often found after. There is a gentle trust that grows when you allow the night to be the night. You may remember moments from childhood falling asleep in the back seat of a car, street lights passing by, the hum of motion carrying you safely. The body remembers how to do this. You do not need to teach it. If emotions surface, sadness, tenderness, gratitude, let them drift through. Do not analyze them. Feel them like weather passing across the sky. The Buddha taught that all experiences arise and pass on their own. You do not need to manage them. Tonight, let experience move without interference. There is nothing you need to become before resting. Nothing you need to prove. You have already done enough. If you notice your breathing, let it be. If you notice thoughts, let them fade. If you notice silence, rest in it. This is the practice now. Somewhere, perhaps far away, a temple bell is ringing. The sound travels outward, then disappears. The bell does not ask the night to respond. It simply rings. You can be like that. Present, complete, at ease. The Buddha taught that peace is not something we earn. It is something we allow. By not demanding answers from the darkness, you give your mind permission to heal. Tomorrow will come when it comes. And when it does, you will meet it with more steadiness because you rested tonight. So let the day Loosen its grip. Let the mind uncoil. Let the heart sink gently into stillness. You are not forgetting your responsibilities. You are honoring your limits. This too is wisdom. As the night deepens, allow yourself to drift. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to solve. Just this moment, just this breath. Just rest. And in this simple, compassionate, allowing sleep finds you naturally, quietly, kindly, exactly when you are ready. As sleep begins to gather around you, there is a quiet understanding settling in the heart. Not an idea you need to remember, not a lesson you need to repeat. Just a feeling, steady, reassuring kind. This path you have touched tonight is not meant to be completed in one sitting. The Buddha never asked anyone to heal all at once. He spoke of walking step by step, breath by breath, moment by moment. That is why this journey unfolds at night. Night after night, the mind is invited to soften. Night after night, the body learns it does not have to stay on guard. Night after night, the heart remembers how to rest without fear. Nothing dramatic is required. If you notice your face now, it may feel different than when you first arrived here. The forehead smoother, the jaw less tight. The eyes heavy, as if they have been gently reassured. These are not small changes. They are signs that something real is happening. The Buddha taught that transformation rarely announces itself. It arrives quietly, like dawn spreading across the sky before anyone notices the light. Tonight, you have not eliminated anxiety. You have not solved your life. But you have done something far more important. You have changed how you meet what arises. You have learned how to pause instead of react, how to rest instead of resist, how to be kind to yourself instead of demanding more strength. This is the heart of the practice. In Buddhist teaching, freedom does not mean that difficulties disappear. It means you no longer face them alone or in confusion. You now know that anxiety is not a command, that thoughts are not orders, that the body responds to gentleness more deeply than force. You know how to breathe in a way that tells the nervous system it can stand down. You know how to let thoughts pass without following them into the night. You know how to turn care for others into warmth instead of worry. These are not techniques to master. They are companions to return to. Some nights will feel easier than others. Some nights the mind will wander more. This is natural. The Buddha never measured progress by constant calm. He measured it by understanding patience and sincerity. If you fall asleep quickly tonight, that is enough. If you wake up and practice again, that is enough. If you simply rest a little more deeply than usual, that is enough. Nothing is wasted. Each moment of awareness plants a seed. Each moment of kindness waters it. Over time, these seeds grow into something steady and trustworthy. You are not walking this path alone. Across this country, in quiet homes and small temples, others are also lying down tonight, learning how to let go just a little more. Some are parents. Some are caregivers. Some are simply tired human beings doing their best. Different lives. The same longing. Peace does not belong to a few special people. It belongs to anyone willing to meet themselves gently. The Buddha taught that the path is walked together even when we are physically apart. When one person practices calm, the world becomes slightly calmer. This is why returning night after night matters. Not because you are fixing yourself, but because you are remembering who you already are beneath the habits of worry and strain. As you drift toward sleep, there is nothing you need to hold on to from tonight. No words to repeat. No steps to review. Just allow the body to sink. Allow the breath to move on its own. Allow the mind to fade into quiet. Tomorrow life will continue. Responsibilities will return. Challenges may still be there, but something will be different. You will carry a little more space inside, a little more patience, a little more trust in your ability to meet whatever comes. And when night returns again, you will know where to come back. If it feels right, you may join us again. Another night, another gentle step. You can leave a quiet word in the comments, perhaps the name of someone you wish peace for tonight. You can subscribe, not as a commitment, but as a reminder that this space is here when you need it. There is no pressure, only an open door. May you sleep deeply tonight. May your heart rest without fear. May the calm you touched here follow you gently into tomorrow. We will continue together one night at a time.